So with the introduction of the Chop Shop DLC in GTA Online, Rockstar added a brand new drift tuning upgrade that can be applied to 8 different cars. The brand new Fathom FR36, the Annis Euros, Annis Remus, the Annis ZR350, the Class A Drift Tampa, the Class A Drift Yosemite, the DivKid Jester RR, and the Karen Fudo GTX. And today I'm going to be ranking each of these 8 cars based on how they handle with this new drift tuning modification equipped, considering factors like power, overall speed, and handling, alongside some other smaller considerations like cost and customization. Now, if you guys want to learn more about the specifics behind this new drift tuning upgrade, how it works, and how to actually drift with it, along with some of the other details regarding the Chop Shop DLC and the drifting content that was added, feel free to check out my 2 previous videos that will be linked in the description, and feel free to just come back to this one when you're ready. Really quickly, I want to make a disclaimer before I show my rankings for each of these cars. These cars all feel absolutely awesome and are an absolute blast to drift with the new drift tuning upgrade, and they really aren't all that drastically different from each other. So just know that much of this ranking is based off of only very small differences that exist between each car. As always, this is my personal preference, so if you have a differing opinion about some of my choices, feel free to let me know in the comments. But with all that out of the way, in the number 8 spot, I've got the Class A Drift Yosemite. This truck, despite being based off of Ken Block's iconic Huna truck, kind of feels odd with the new drift tuning upgrade applied. While this truck is incredibly smooth with its handling, mainly due to its slightly stiffer suspension and high weight that helps provide some extra momentum during those longer drifts, the Drift Yosemite just feels artificially slow. It definitely lacks overall grip compared to the other cars with this upgrade equipped, which might be because of the original handling attributes of the Drift Yosemite before this upgrade is applied. I'm honestly not sure. While it is a cool truck overall and is great for beginners because it's so slow and smooth, the overall lack of grip and slow drifting speed meant that I had to put it in the number 8 spot because I feel like the remaining 7 cars on this list are just more fun when drifting overall. In the number 7 spot, I've got the Class A Drift Tampa, which again just feels kind of odd. While it's much easier to get sideways now and feels a lot more faithful to the actual Unicorn Mustang, its handling is sort of lacking in my opinion. Overall, the car is incredibly grippy and snappy. While it's agile and fast enough to toss around pretty easily, it doesn't handle nearly as smooth as the rest of the cars in this video. It's because the Drift Tampa has so much grip compared to the other cars that it has a stronger tendency to understeer or completely straighten out unless you're really aggressive with your steering inputs to force the car to keep sideways. Like we saw with the Drift Yosemite, this might be a product of the drift upgrade being applied over top of the Drift Tampa's existing grippy all-wheel drive handling line, but I can't fully confirm that yet. Regardless, I think there are way smoother cars on this list. In the number 6 spot, we've got the Karen Fudo GTX. Honestly, it was pretty hard to rank this car given how similar all of the remaining cars are, but there's still a few things specific to this car that I think sets it back a little bit. First of all, the Karen Fudo GTX just feels a little bit sluggish and slow. While it's clearly faster than the Drift Yosemite we covered beforehand, it still is slower than the remaining cars. While the Fudo GTX is very easy to get sliding in the first place, the car has an inherently very soft suspension, which contributes to a lot of body roll, and this body roll means that the car has a slight tendency to want to understeer. Now, while you can definitely work around this by driving the Fudo GTX a bit more aggressively and throwing more angle at it, it just doesn't feel as smooth as I'd expect it to be, given how smooth this car feels in its rear-wheel drive state without the drift tuning upgrade. In the number 5 spot, we've got the DivKid Jester RR. This car is actually really underrated. Before this update, many people really didn't drift the Jester RR all that much, despite the fact that it feels amazing in its rear-wheel drive state. And even after this new drift tuning option has been added, it seems like many people have chosen other cars over this one. Despite its reputation or lack thereof, the Jester RR still feels incredibly smooth. It's about the same in terms of speed as the Karen Fudo GTX, but feels a lot more planted, kind of like the Drift Yosemite that we talked about in the number 8 spot. The Jester RR is a lot stiffer, therefore it's more agile and responsive. However, it still feels like this car is lacking a little bit of grip. It gives me that same kind of artificial slow feeling that I got with the Drift Yosemite, as it sounds like the Jester RR is really struggling to keep the power up to link together those longer drifts. The handling definitely makes up for this partially, but again, there are a lot more fun car options to be covered. For the number 4 spot, we've got the Annis Euros, and as we've seen with the past few picks, the gaps between each of these cars is starting to get a lot smaller, and the relative differences with the Euros are a lot less pronounced here. The Euros is an extremely agile car overall, being able to be tossed around quite easily with its short wheelbase, and in this case, the all-wheel drive conversion really comes in to save the day and helps this car hold a ton of angle. Additionally, the Euros is slightly quicker than the DivKid Jester RR. It feels a little bit more gripped up, which clearly means it's not as slow, but it still remains just as smooth in terms terms of handling. While the Euros wasn't the most popular drift car going into this update, I definitely think it's worth you guys giving it a shot now. The handling with the drift tuning option really wakes this car up and makes it feel a lot faster, smoother, and just generally more fun than it did in its rear-wheel drive state, where it originally was very snappy and didn't hold much angle at all. Kicking off my top 3 favorites, we've next up got the Annis ZR350, and my gosh, this car is worlds better with the drift tuning upgrade than it ever was before this update. You guys might remember that the ZR350 was, in my opinion, one of the worst cars to come with the Los Santos Tuners DLC because it was so twitchy and tail happy, therefore you really couldn't send it all that hard and you just generally couldn't have fun drifting it. Now, with the drift tuning upgrade applied, the ZR350 is an absolute riot to drive. While it feels about the same as the Euros in terms of power and overall speed, the ZR350 feels marginally smoother. It's not by much, but drifting this car and just throwing it around inspires a little bit more confidence, and obviously this car has enough power to keep longer slides going very easily. Considering that the ZR350 has received a much needed revamp over its original handling, combined with all of its cool customization, definitely solidifies it in the number 3 spot here. In second place, we've got the iconic Annis Remus. Already this car was awesome for drifting before the drift tuning upgrade was introduced, and with it, it's even more fun. While this car definitely does feel a little bit weird compared to its original rear-wheel drive version, the Remus is still very easy to slide with this new upgrade. It pretty much combines all of the best aspects of the previous cars, meaning that it's not only agile and easy to toss around, but it also manages to be fairly smooth while doing it. Don't get me wrong, you will have to drive this car a little bit more aggressively to account for a slight bit of all-wheel drive understeer, but beyond that, you can throw pretty much everything at this new Remus and it will still feel very planted and smooth. While this car is fairly lightweight and gripped up, it still feels very fluid when throwing it into and transitioning between drifts. Combine that with its pretty fair cost and a slew of authentic customization options, and it makes sense why it was ranked so high on my list, and also for a lot of your guys' lists too. And obviously the new Fathom FR36 takes the number 1 ranking. This is by far the most popular car with the drift tuning upgrade, not just because this car is brand new to GTA with this new update, but because it genuinely feels the most natural with the upgrade applied. This is logical though, because Rockstar likely used the Fathom FR36 as the guinea pig for developing all of these new handling changes with the drift tuning upgrade, therefore this car naturally would feel the best with it. This car is on the heavier side compared to the Remus, which actually makes it even smoother and more fluid during entries, transitions, and pretty much every other type of drift you're doing because you have a little bit more usable momentum. The suspension does feel a little spongy and soft compared to the other cars, but this doesn't cause that much understeer and is more than manageable even with a little bit of practice. That's not to mention that the FR36 is pretty reasonably priced considering the modern GTA economy, and with that it offers a ton of clearly drift-inspired customization options. It's obvious that Rockstar designed this car to drift, and I think they nailed it both from a physics and customization perspective, and it really does make sense why many people I've asked have said this car is their favorite from the update, and it's definitely mine too. And that is a wrap on all of my rankings for the 8 cars that just got access to the brand new drift tuning upgrade as part of the Chop Shop DLC in GTA Online. Hopefully you guys agreed with most, if not all, of my chosen rankings, and as always, feel free to share any additional opinions or feedback you might have down below in the comments. Stick around the channel if you like what you see here, as I've got plenty more drifting videos lined up and we'll be working on them very soon. Thank you all so much for your watching and for all of the recent support with this brand new DLC. Stay awesome and have a great rest of your day.